Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are going to dive deep into one of the most fundamental concepts in Informatica MDM, the child object. Getting this right is absolutely the key to building an MDM solution that's not just accurate, but can actually scale. So let's jump right in.
Okay, let's kick things off with a classic problem, one I am sure you've all wrestled with. You've got one perfect golden record for a customer. Fantastic. But that customer has 3 addresses, 2 phone numbers, and a couple of different email accounts. So what do? How do you model all of that without just creating a total data nightmare? Well, you've really got 2 paths. Over on the left, we've got what I call the messy way. You just keep adding columns, right? Address 1, address 2, phone 1, phone 2. Before you know it, this record is bloated, it's completely unwieldy, it's a pain to query, and it's a disaster to manage. But then you look to the right, and you see the clean way. It's elegant, one single parent customer, neatly linked to separate, structured records for each address and phone. This is the path to sanity, my friends. What we're really talking about here has a name. It's the multi-value data problem, and it is the absolute core challenge of trying to manage all those repeating bits of information without completely destroying your data model and your data quality along with it. Because when you choose that messy way, the consequences are real and they are painful. Your data gets denormalized. Trying to figure out which address should win during a merge becomes a total guessing game. Your database performance just slows to a crawl. And trying to apply consistent data quality rules, forget about it. It's basically a recipe for failure. So, how do we solve this? How do we avoid that disaster? Well, let me introduce you to the hero of our story today, the definitive, elegant solution to the multi-value data problem, the child object. So what is it, really? The most crucial thing to understand is that a child object is dependent. It literally cannot exist by itself. Just think about it. An address record floating in space with no customer attached to it is completely meaningless, right? It needs that parent to have any purpose at all. And that makes it the perfect tool for modeling these one-to-many relationships. And you see this pattern everywhere in the real world. A customer, the parent, can have many addressed children or many contact children. A product can have a whole list of different attributes. A supplier can have multiple bank accounts. This isn't just some abstract theory. This is exactly how clean, enterprise-grade MDM solutions are built. Okay, so we know what they are and why we need them. Now let's get our hands dirty and talk about the practical side. How do you actually design one of these from the ground up? And you know what? It's a pretty straightforward 3-step process. First, you just look at your data and identify those repeating groups, the addresses, the emails, whatever they are. Second, you pop into the hub console and you physically create that child object, making sure to link it to its parent. And finally, step 3, you define all the columns, all the attributes that this child object is going to hold. Let's make this super concrete. Take a look at a C_address object. You've got your standard fields, of course, address line, city, state. But I want you to notice 2 absolutely critical attributes here. First, an address_type, so you can tell a home address from an office one. And second, and this is the most important one, the foreign key that links this specific address back to its parent customer. And I really cannot stress this enough. If you take away one thing from this session, let it be this. This is the golden rule. Every single child record must, without exception, be linked back to its parent using the parent's unique system ID, its ROWID. Without that link, the child is an orphan, and your whole beautiful data structure just crumbles into dust. Now, here's a detail that trips a lot of people up, so let's break it down. Parent objects, they're identified by a business key, right? Something like a customer ID from your source system. But child objects, they play by different rules. They get a system-generated ID, a surrogate key. And, critically, you can and should define a natural key, like combining the parent's ID with the address type to stop duplicates from ever being created. All right, so our objects are designed, they look great on paper. Now let's see how they actually behave out in the wild when we start loading data and, merging records. The data flow has a very strict sequence you have to follow. So data comes from the source, lands in your staging tables, no surprise there. Then, and this part is non-negotiable, the parent record gets loaded first. Only after that parent record exists in the hub and has a ROWID can you even think about loading the child records, because they need that ROWID to create their link. If you get this order wrong, your load will just fail. Simple as that. Okay, now for the big one. What happens when 2 parent records merge? Do all the children from the losing record just vanish? No.
The great news is you are in complete control. You can configure those child records to be merged or to just be carried over to the winning parent, or even to be deduplicated if the winner already has a similar address. And you get all this control through survivorship rules. This is where you get to play judge and jury. You decide which child record wins in a conflict. Maybe you trust one source system more than another. Or maybe you always want the most recently updated address. Or hey, maybe you want the one with the most complete information. You get to define these rules to build your absolutely perfect golden record. So theory is great, but let's talk about the real world for a minute. I want to give you some hard-won, field-tested knowledge. We're going to walk through the most common issues you will face with child objects and, more importantly, exactly how to fix them. First up, the one that everybody hits sooner or later. You load your data, you pull up a customer, and you see the exact same address or phone number listed 2, 3, 4 times. It is so frustrating, but thankfully, it's completely fixable. The cause, 9 times out of 10, is that there's no natural key defined. You haven't told MDM how to identify a unique child record. The solution is super direct. You go back to your design, you define that natural key using a smart combination of fields, and you make sure to turn on the deduplication logic. Boom, problem solved. The next major headache you might run into is the orphan child record. This is a child that has somehow lost its link to a parent. And this isn't just a messy data point. This is a serious data integrity issue. And the cause for this goes right back to that loading sequence we just talked about. Either the parent record flat out failed to load, or its ROID wasn't resolved correctly when the child was being loaded. The fix here isn't a complex bit of code. It's a procedural discipline. You must always ensure your parent load job finishes successfully before you even kick off the child load. And finally, the scariest one of all. You merge 2 customer records, and suddenly a whole set of valuable addresses or phone numbers just vanishes. They're gone. This is exactly how you lose the trust of your business users. The cause here is usually just a lack of foresight. The merge and survivorship rules for these child objects were either configured incorrectly, or worse, they weren't configured at all. So the solution is diligence. You have to explicitly define your child survivorship rules. And then you have to test and test and test again. Test every possible merge scenario before you ever think about going live. So let's just boil this all down, shall we? Here's the key takeaway. Without child objects, your MDM system is built on a really shaky foundation. Merges become a gamble, and your golden record is a mess. But when you master them, you unlock a clean, scalable architecture that lets you produce a truly accurate golden record that people can actually trust. And that brings me to my final question for you. I want you to think about your own systems right now. What multi-valued attributes are causing you pain today? What part of your data model is just crying out to be cleaned up with a proper child object? Thanks for watching.